Welcome to another episode of The Unsubstantiated Genius. I have a special guest here with me on Zoom. But before we dive in, can you head over to iTunes, subscribe, share with all of your friends. Go to pstvtoday.com. We have a network, a budding network that's designed to lift you up. Every day we're adding new content. And we're just going to dive in because I don't know, I like having great conversations, and the individual that is here with me today is someone that's really unique. And it's kind of funny. Like I was just talking to him about the podcast that he started, and it's a topic that I struggle with. So, with that being said, Ash Kumra, the host of the Mindful Hustle podcast. Thank you for joining me, man. Yeah, thank you.
Hey, man, it's not a therapy call. Jeez. You're like, oh, that's what to talk about. We're just talking meditation, bro. It's not
it's hard though. Like for me, like it's something that I've struggled with, but it's not something that I consider hard. Like it's hard just to quiet my mind. So,
well, look, it's fun. It's ironic that I did some content on this today, but the biggest thing that holds you back from doing something or not doing something is either you have self-awareness or lack of self-awareness. So the fact that you're self-aware to acknowledge that, you need to incorporate your meditation into your daily habit is like more than 50% the battle. Seriously.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I believe that. And it's kind of funny. Like I have done meditation on and off. There's an app called Simple Habit that I did about a year ago. And I do it right before bed for 5 minutes. And that kind of helped me get really good sleep. But what I'm talking about as far as struggling with meditation is being consistent with it, which is really weird because I'm consistent with so many things in my life. That's just one that I've struggled to actually incorporate on a daily basis. Like I probably do it maybe a day or two out of the week is my guess. So let's get a little background from you real quick. Why meditation? Why mindfulness? Like how'd you get into that?
Yeah. I'm just trying to give you an answer because there's so many ways I can explain that. Yeah. You know what I would say is this, like, look, I've been a busy entrepreneur. I've worked on the working world too. And I noticed that I started to get overwhelmed with things, whether it's getting sensitive or high anxiety, not medically, but just informal anxiety or just what some would call kind of a small level burnout to the point where like it would make me do all these short-term things like over caffeinate or eat lots of crappy food and all these things. And I was just like, whoa, like something's up. And then like around the same time though, I started to just tap into meditation and like from a home practice. But then I was like, you know what? If this can help, how can this stuff help me when I'm like burned out at work, not just burned out at home, or if I need to relieve stress or things like that. So I started to put two and two, and then it became more of a ritual that helps me make my work day better. See, the world that I live in, I think meditation, mindfulness, all these things, the whole goal is very simple. It's to get you to your center self, which is the equivalent of just being present. And when you're in that present state, you perform better. So when you understand that when you're present, you perform better, and one of the easiest ways to do that is to do some form of mindfulness, then why not? So that's kind of high level how I got into it and why I do it.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it's very true. I heard a quote a while ago. If you live in the future, you're anxious. If you live in the past, you're depressed. And if you're in the present, like you're basically happy. And it's so true. Like on my own journey, I struggled with being anxious. I struggled with being depressed for a long time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I stopped worrying about like the goals and all that stuff and just literally started being present with the process, and actually did a podcast on the process earlier today. So let's take it down a tangent, if you will. So if you were someone like me who struggled with either depression or anxiety, getting present and focusing on being present in the moment, being mindful of it, how do you think that to improve that transition, if you will? How do you make it happen? Does that make sense? Like for me, it took a year and a half. But for someone that's going through the process right now, what type of things should they do to actually literally say, okay, enough with this crap? Because living as an anxious person or a depressed person, it sucks.
I think it starts with mastering self-awareness. I want to really go back to that because, in fact, if we had to take a step back and say, hey, what should we have this conversation be about? I would say how to master awareness. Because honestly, if you're not aware, then nothing else matters. So I could tell you every day to do meditation and I could tell you it has benefits. But if you're not doing it for yourself to be, hey, my body needs this or I need this for my mental health versus, oh, I'm just doing this because Ash told me to, then it's not likely you're going to do it. It's likely you're just going to listen to me a couple of days, but then you're not going to get that thing. So for me, I think you really have to master self-awareness, because if you can keep telling yourself at certain situations, like, I'm feeling like this, and it's been proven, whether it's spiritual science or even what I call this new brain hacking atheist movement that the Dave Asprey's of the world have kind of created, then like even they believe in the meditation side, then like you have that proof there. So if you believe that proof and if you connect it with every time you need to do a activity to reset yourself, then you have a higher chance of getting into the habit.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So how does one start becoming aware? Because I know a lot of people who never actually think about that.
I think you should journal it or think it in your head. Okay. I know it sounds rudimentary, but like, okay, so ask yourself, okay, like, I'm feeling weird right now. Why? Simple. Or if you wake up in the morning and you feel groggy, ask yourself, why am I feeling this? So I'm not trying to pull a Simon Sinek on you, but start to ask your why on every time you're feeling off.
Oh yeah. Well, like I do that all the time. I'm very introspective. I'm trying to approach this from a perspective of someone that's actually going through that process. So like me, like I've been through hell, man. Like I broke my back playing college basketball. I've lost millions of dollars. I have trusted the wrong people. Wow. I was suicidal as a point growing up. Like all of those things forced me to figure out what the fuck was going on with my life and why. So the question that you just brought up, why, asking yourself why on every single thing, is something I literally do every single day. And it's helped transform me dramatically. But it wasn't like someone was able to give me a blueprint of how to do it. I had to go through hell to figure it out, and then read a tremendous amount of self-help books, brain hacking, all that stuff. And it eventually got to that point where I'm very introspective on everything I do. So even the asking why, like that's difficult for a lot of people. They're just not conscious of it.
Yeah, well, the thing I would say is, first off, thanks for sharing that. I really appreciate that, being personal with me. What I would say is it really just starts with you taking the interest in doing meditation, because the only way you can get others to meditate or get others to meditate in general is by being an example. So this conversation is an example. Obviously, I'm an advocate of it. So obviously, hopefully my example will help make you maybe more likely do it. But here's the thing I'll say to you to go even further. You just said a couple things that relate to what I said earlier. You said, hey, I've done self-help books. I've done brain hacking. The top self-help experts, the top brain hacking experts have all said meditation is a good thing. Mm-hmm. So if you follow them for advice on other areas, apply that to this advice. Yep. I'm serious. Like, so that's one thing. Number two, don't make this so complicated. Do it a minute a day. Do 2 minutes a day. I'm serious, because it's not about doing it once and saying I'm good or doing it for 20 or an hour. It's about being consistent. But if you're not consistent for more than a minute or two, then, or a day or 5 minutes, then you have no way to say you really gave it a try. You know, I'll tell you an analogy. This is something that I always I question, because prior to doing a lot of this mindfulness content I'm doing now, I was doing a lot of work in the entrepreneur space, helping build mentorship communities and stuff. And the biggest thing I learned from mentors and entrepreneurs is that there are situations when an entrepreneur is gung-ho and they want to go into something, but they're immediately scared because this big competitor or this big stat is in front of them, and they're like, oh my God, how am I going to be ready? But it's have you actually done the work?
Yeah.
So it's like, do you know what it's like? So that's the thing I'm trying to say to you is that, like, you can say this back and forth, but can you try a minute or two a day and then
Mm.
for a week or two and then say, I don't have a habit of meditating. Do that first.
Yeah, I can do
Put
that.
in your reminder and try it out. I know it's just, you gotta set it up like a performance thing where it's like, I have to work out X amount of days. I have to write every day, or I have
Mm.
to sleep 8 hours. I don't have to have a conversation with you on the benefits or if it works or not. That's
No,
not
not at
the
all.
point.
Yeah.
But if you get that, then incorporate it as another habit.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. Like right now I'm learning kickboxing. I'm doing that 4 times a week. I play beach volleyball. Like I'm making it a point to be active more so than I have been since I played college basketball.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. Just literally just laying it out in some form of calendar and just making it work, making it happen. I've also found some interesting things. So one of the ways that I have meditated in the past is going out into a pool of water and literally submerging my head up to my, like, the top of my face, and just literally just laying back, and that quietness, it just automatically distills my mind down to nothing basically. And I guess my question is, have you done any work with other mediums and helping you achieve that state? Because like when I lay down in water, it was instantaneous every single time. It was just like a calming peace that just settled over me.
Okay, so this is a great question. Let's take a step back. I think I'm not saying you, but I think some people I've interacted with have a definition of meditation as one type of thing. I think being in the water and still is a form of meditation.
Yeah.
I think taking a walk is a form of meditation. So you might already be doing meditation without knowing it.
Yeah, kickboxing, like I get very into my body.
I mean, it's a physical form. Anything that gets you in that present state is a form of meditation.
Yeah, fair enough.
So if you feel you're totally present kickboxing, then maybe that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not like at some kickboxing class with, like, the cute instructors and stuff. Like you're.
I mean, sometimes, but yes.
Okay.
Right. So there's a speed bag that I go, and it's just rhythm, bump, a bump, a bump, a bump.
Okay, so that's in the flow. So being in that flow state gets you present, and that's a form. So I guess to take a step back, maybe you are doing some form of meditation, you just don't know it.
Yeah, fair enough. That might be just a definition issue then. That's very true, man. That's very true. And I don't really think about it in that way, but you definitely bring up some good points. So what are some of the things that you've ran into with individuals walking the journey of trying to become aware, trying to do some form of meditation? And more specifically, how do they overcome some of those hurdles?
I think it first starts with, going back to that entrepreneur example, you can't let the outside environment change the way you are. Mm-hmm. If you say to yourself, I'm going to own this day, and the way you see the world is, instead of seeing days as failing or whatnot, it's like, no, today I either learn or grow.
Yeah.
That's a very important concept, because let's say you tried this 1 to 2 minutes of meditation a day goal, and let's say one day you don't do it. You didn't fail. You just learned, what did I do? You might have been like, oh, I had a caffeinated drink before this. Of course my mind is jittery. Okay, next time I won't. But if you said, damn it, I failed, and then you get this stress, and then you're like not motivated to do it again. So it starts with the mindset. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. It's kind of funny, that concept right there. I have a book coming out nationally called Broken Open, right? And it's about the premise is going through events that are so disjointing that they essentially break your habits and give you a clean slate to go forward.
Oh, wow.
And that's the premise. And I've gone through multiple times of those within my journey. And that's the thing that I've learned from my own introspective journey. So I love it, the fact that you say there's not really any failures, there's learning lessons.
Yeah. Like, so if you know, sorry to interrupt you. If you notice this whole conversation, I'm not telling you how to meditate. I'm not even telling you which ones work. I'm trying to focus on the foundation aspect. Do you have the right mindset, which is learning and growing? Are you developing this awareness why is my body feeling like this? What can I do right now besides something short term? I think if you don't have those two things in check, I could tell you anything. I could preach to you all about meditation, and you might drink the Kool-Aid, but like, it doesn't matter. You're going to slip in a day or two.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's very, very true, man. That's very, very true. So let's get a little personal for a second.
Okay.
What do you struggle with when it comes to your own awareness, your own mindfulness?
I think I struggle with, that's a good question. I've never been asked that before. I think I struggle with, I have this fallacy of like, do I do it every day at a certain time or do I do it throughout the day? So I
Yeah.
think for me, that's a big thing. But it is proven that like, not proven, but like habitually it does work better if like you get up at a certain time every day and you do it for this.
Okay.
If I set a calendar date that I'm going to meditate every morning at 9 a.m., I won't likely do it. If I set a date internally in my head or on my calendar that today, hey, make sure to add meditation, I will do it every day.
Yeah.
So that's something I have to inner struggle with. Number two is I have to apply awareness more sometimes, you know?
I mean, that's
So
a journey. It's not a destination. So
yeah. So I think those two things.
okay. I love it. Thank you for sharing that too, by the way. Like
No worries. I mean, it's not as personal as yours, but I haven't really, it's for me, I guess what I could say is that like I look at things as learning or growing. So right now I'm not seeing myself in some like, oh, I was in a rock bottom. So it's like, no, I learned and grew. Thank God.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had those states, but right now I'm in this like, how can I make myself better kind of mode?
Yeah. And that's a great mode to be in. And that's literally every day. I love being around and having conversations with individuals in that sort of mode because it inherently, it rubs off on you. It makes you, it pushes you to become better yourself, not like
Right.
competition with them, but just better than yesterday.
Right.
Which is a very powerful thing. So where are you taking all of this? Where are you taking your companies? Where are you taking your podcast? Like what's the future?
Yeah. So for me, I mentioned that I started to apply mindfulness, meditation type of stuff in my business hustle. And I was like, there's so many people like you who are like, I want to be meditative or I want to do mindfulness or some activity, but I just don't have the habit or I don't understand the full benefits or I don't understand the different types of out there. So I feel like I'm a vessel to like communicate that. So right now with the podcast and with the mindfulness app, I feel like I'm one of these people. And Ryan Blair is another example. He's someone like me, but on a far larger level who gets this stuff. And now we're trying to tell probably the most stressed out type of people, which are everyday business people, that you need to apply this. So that's really my mission. Like everything I'm doing is around that. Like everything I do for my podcast, my radio shows, or the People Mindful app, it's all about like getting people to like, look, why aren't you doing this? Let me help make it easy for you.
Yeah, no, I resonate with that. PSTV, like I don't feel like I'm really controlling it. I feel like I am just literally just a mouthpiece for positivity, if you will, and aggregating content that is along those lines.
Nice.
And it's kind of funny, like when I started this company, it wasn't even supposed to be a company. Like my mom was sending me positive quotes during the day, and I was like, okay, that's cool. This should be an app. So I taught myself how to code last July. I coded a beta app. And it turned into a company and we just started growing. Like we didn't know, Eric, none of our team members knew anything about media before we started this. Like Eric was an intern at my hedge fund.
Wow.
And he was awesome. And I was like, yeah, we definitely need to stick together. But like, it just kind of sort of happened, which is kind of crazy because in my own experience, I found that life is, you can plan for all these things, all these disasters, all these good things. And then life just throws you a curveball.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not being present, if you're not being aware, if you're not being mindful, those curveballs have the potential to literally derail your entire life.
Yeah.
If you allow it to. So it was the entire process it was really cool in hindsight. Because if you would have asked me if I would be running a media company like 14, 16 months ago, I would have told you you're smoking a very potent form of crack. So it's been interesting. So you bring up Ryan, and he's someone that's very dear to me.
You had a great interview with him a few months ago.
Oh yeah, well, I've known him since 2010. Like I drove 12 hours for a 30-minute meeting, then volunteered to work for free for him personally.
Wow.
Just for him to be my mentor in 2010, and that's how we met. And you're absolutely right. Like the vessel, like being a vessel for a message that's greater than yourself. He is, you are, I'm walking that path, starting to, but if you let me ask you this question: how do you how do you approach something in that magnitude, and how do you make that happen? Like, how do you find that passion to be a vessel for something greater than yourself? Because quite honestly, there's very few people that actually do that.
I think a lot of people don't do it is because they make it more difficult than it is.
Yeah,
It's really simple. What do you enjoy doing? If I didn't
yeah.
enjoy doing mindfulness stuff, I wouldn't be this vessel. Ryan didn't enjoy it, he wouldn't do it. So simple question: what do you really enjoy doing?
Hmm.
Like, what
That's
is
true.
something that you could love talking about to people, free if you could even? That's it.
Yeah. No, that's true. And it's something that's been coming up multiple times in your answers is you like to distill things down to their most simple form.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because we as human beings have a tendency to make things entirely too complex.
Yes.
Why do you think that is?
Society expectations. Everything comes from letting the outside world control your inside world.
Okay.
I'm being serious. I think everything from, look at our social media anxiety. Everyone has to get
Hmm.
instant gratification. Look at this fake news culture where people are reacting about things that are not in their control. I'm not saying one way is right or not, but I'm not saying that what I'm seeing on a TV network channel, which you don't even know if what the real agenda is or if the shoot story is authentic or not, is really going to it's not going to make your day better or different.
Yeah.
These are small examples too. You're having conversations and like you care so much what other people think, to things of that sort. So I really think that a lot of that, in fact, it makes you complicate yourself in your head.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And you bring up something that hits home for me is the more media we consume, the higher the probability of being depressed and suicidal is. Like, I
Yeah.
have direct correlation and statistics with that. And that's a crazy thing. Because from a media standpoint, it's why I like your podcast. It's why I like your content that you put out. It is creating a different modality than traditional news. It's completely just taking a different path, and that in and of itself is a positive upward spiral.
Yeah.
Whereas if you consume a lot of traditional media, a lot of people don't actually know that they are literally rewiring their brain to be predisposed for a more negative mindset.
Yep.
And that boggles my mind because it's just sad. So I want to thank you for helping like swing that pendulum the other direction, because it's a huge issue, but it's not even spoken about.
Yeah. A lot of things aren't spoken about. Times have changed. It's interesting, but you can't dwell on that, and you've got to just be the best version of yourself, however you feel it is.
True. Very, very true. So, alrighty. So we started talking about meditation, dove into a little bit of self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You can't really meditate unless you're self-aware. So is there anything that is even a more simple version than just being self-aware? Is there like, actually, this would get into a very interesting topic, like the origins of life and all
I
that
could
stuff.
start with that. Well, 5,000 years ago.
Oh, that's funny. But yeah, so awareness. Okay. For someone that has been through a lot of different situations, there was really there was certain points in my life where I had to become either aware or I probably would cease to exist. Like, that was my options at the time. Um, it sucks. It's painful. It is not a very good place to be in. So, say you are at or approaching a rock bottom. Okay. And you start those questions of being, okay, how do I change this? What can I do? What are my actions? What are my thoughts I can do and to change this situation? What type of advice would you give someone in that situation to calm their soul, to calm their mind, knowing that they're in that place for a reason, but to expedite getting out of that area, getting out of that situation and moving forward? How would you go about giving advice to someone like that? So think Ryan when he lost his mom and lost a
Yeah.
bunch of stuff. Like, what type of advice do you give someone in that specific situation?
Well, first off, I'm not going to give some, I'm not going to say meditation is going to cure your life. I mean,
Yeah.
not trying to be funny, but I'm going to say that the more time you spend, the more it's about making something. It's about saying to yourself, I want to self grow, which sounds like the person like Ryan or someone else is at a point in their life. Look, I'm sick and tired of this state.
Yeah.
And again, you have to just believe that these things will help you self grow. So in order for you to do that, you have to really like I think that 1 to 2 minute thing.
So just doing a single step a day
Yeah,
and
you gotta
just
do a
just
step a day.
just
Like
commit.
it's like if you're 500 pounds and you want to become 180 pounds, you're not gonna like go run 5 miles one day the first day. You're gonna run
Yeah.
a mile, and then go a
Yeah.
mile and a half. Or if you're training, like I know you and Eric do a lot of these training things, like you gotta like start consistently, and then it adds up and it adds up as you get more resistant and you can do it.
Yeah. No, that's very true. Um, but even that, like when you're in that situation, you feel, and I'm speaking from experience right here, like
Yeah, I understand.
you feel completely lost, isolated, and just it's almost like the weight of the world is literally sitting on you, and that's all self-induced.
Wow.
Um, but that to me, like that situation, I have a lot of compassion for because of the stuff I've been through. So even taking like, and I know this sounds really crazy, but even doing a minute a day or 30 seconds a day, or just putting one foot in front of the other and trying to get out of that situation, at least from a mindful awareness standpoint, when you're in that situation, it seems, even that seems like crossing the Grand Canyon.
All I can tell you is that literally every role model that you might have read or met that helped you get out of that rock bottom has advocated mindfulness.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I agree. I completely agree.
So if that's one point. Number two is um, there's no downside to doing it. So if this is going to help you and doesn't cost you anything, and it's not a drug, then get into it. I think going back to the simplification, like you said, or the things before, it has to do with your environment too. So look, if you're hanging out with a bunch of like negative and people who are not really looking at life well, and you want to develop a mindfulness habit, obviously there's a chance that you won't do it. But
Yeah.
if you're with good, positive people, right now, mindfulness is something that's pretty adopted, and it's something that positive-minded people want to do. So you have to change your environment a little.
Yeah, and I would even take that a step further. If you were surrounded by positive people, if you were surrounded by those type of people that are going out and trying to better themselves, you probably wouldn't be in that situation.
Well said.
So to me, it's almost like, okay, it's again kind of going back to the book that's coming out. You have a blank slate.
Yeah.
And that's a very powerful moment. Like I remember my mom, she was going through a divorce and they just finalized it. And she said to me, she's like, I don't know what to do. I was like, you have a blank slate. You get to do whatever the fuck you want.
Wow.
Like
Yeah.
that's a powerful place to be in, because it's no longer, you don't have these expectations. You get
Mm-hmm.
to go make your own choices and build whatever you want. And I think that's an underappreciated aspect of a negative situation, if
Yeah.
you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, man, it's sorry, we've been on a couple different tangents so far, which is
Yeah. I'm here to serve. Whatever you want to talk about, it's your
yeah.
show.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. I definitely appreciate it. So I'm curious, before you got into the mindful space, you were building networks for mentors, entrepreneurism.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like what was that, and what kind of challenges were you going through for that?
Yeah, well, it was the greatest school of business because I learned from all these mentors. I learned, you know, being an entrepreneur to helping entrepreneurs is like a great feeling.
Mhm.
But I'll tell you one thing I learned from a trend perspective. I learned that there was this outer trend of work, hustle, hustle, hustle culture. Like you
Yeah,
got to work 100 hours a week and you're not validated unless you do that, or you're dictated by what gets funding. And so for me, I'm just like, that doesn't make sense,
yeah,
because
yeah,
I kept working hard and I kept seeing things, but I kept seeing this depletion of mental health. So I
Hmm.
guess I developed an awareness by seeing how depleted I got from just pushing myself and exerting myself. So that's what I can say about it. It was a great experience, and I'm not against it. I still do a lot of mentoring. I help with startup competitions. I help with the OC, Greater SoCal Startup Grind chapter powered by Google for Entrepreneurs. So I do a lot of stuff. But I can tell you that there's an epidemic in the entrepreneur, like various entrepreneur circles, where like there's this, you got to work hard until you pass out, or like you have to work hard even if it means your mental health is hurt. But in the long run, that just hurts you.
Yeah, I completely agree. So did you ever get burned out during that area?
Yeah, that's why I forced myself to do mindfulness,
Yeah.
because I reached a state where like I don't like this state. And
Yeah.
then I saw mentors and role models, in particular one interview I did with Dr. Oz, where like he was basically saying, if you start meditating every day, like you'll be a better entrepreneur. And I was like, oh my God, I never realized that. I do like meditation. I never applied it into a daily habit as an entrepreneur. So you have to just use that. And that's kind of my journey, my story.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. And it's amazing how your situations to learn from
Yeah.
equate into your future.
Yeah.
Like that's awesome. That's very, very awesome. So we're getting to the time where I usually start cutting this off a little bit. Is there anything else you want to add? Anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, first off, thank you for this interview. I learned a lot about you as well. And it's such a great kind of show that you want to have these inspiring conversations. But the thing I want to say though is that, okay, take away awareness, take away meditating 1 to 2 minutes a day. The thing that really matters too, and I like that you asked me these other questions, is that you have to not let the outside, when I say outside, that's other people outside of yourself, dictate how you should live your life.
Yeah.
Because I feel that we're very prone to getting affected by outside people. And that's what creates these standards that might not meet our own standards, or these expectations or things that you have to do based on what others think. You have to go with what feels natural to you. Like you asked me, how do you take a passion? It's like, what is natural to you? Don't complicate it. You know what I mean? It's like, do things that's natural to you. And I think that's something that's very important for anyone.
You know, it's really, really funny that you bring that up. I can make an argument that yourself is not necessarily comprised of your own thoughts, actions, and beliefs. It's actually comprised more of other people's, going all the way back to your childhood, where you're told how to dress, how to eat, where to go, all that stuff. So your self-identity, it's not till we get to like 12, 10, 15, that area of time frame where we actually start developing an internal mechanism of asking ourselves, is this who I am?
Yeah.
When people tell me this stuff.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting that that as we go through the process, and once you get into your 20s, your 30s, and so on, you start literally asking yourself, was the stuff I learned as in my childhood, is that conducive to who I am now? And I think that is a huge question that a lot of people never actually ask, because in the stuff I've learned from about rewiring your brain, basically, like you can pick and choose your modalities.
Yep.
But if people aren't asking themselves, is this who I really am? Like, is like a good example. Parents who have doctors are doctors who are parents and push them kids into being a doctor. Okay, going forward, they might accept that, they might reject it, but their entire perspective going forward is always going to be referred back to the doctor, basically modality, if you will. So I'm going to ask you another question. How do you help solve that issue? How do you, I know being aware and asking why is obviously the big one, because that becomes conscious and then you could choose. But even the people that they know something's wrong with that equation, but they don't know quite how or why yet. Do you have any advice on how to make that transition?
What do you mean by that? Can you be more clear? Sorry. I don't understand that.
No. It's not a problem at all. So, okay. Well, hypothetically, I've grown up and my parents were doctors, and I was pushed into medical school and all this other stuff. And I'm getting burnt out by my 5th year of college, getting ready to go into residency. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm not having fun. But everything that I compare it to goes back to my parents' expectations towards myself and my internal modality that I'm supposed to be a quote doctor or a professional in that field. But that modality creates this expectation and creates my own perception of going forward that I need to be in like those expectations need to be met. So if you have, but I'm not happy doing them. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in that situation, because awareness to me, this is key to it. But how do you transition from, okay, I'm not happy with my current state. I've been told my entire life that I should be this, but that doesn't resonate with me. How do you break that I guess that internal monologue?
I think it's small steps. It's kind of like the
Same
meditation
thing.
thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's small steps.
Okay.
I
like
mean,
that.
look, you're not going to be happy hours and hours every day. And I don't want to come off like I'm some happiness coach or something, but like, I'm just trying to say that like, if you want to achieve some happiness, you have to, again, you have to, I think you have to take the small step. Can I give myself 5 minutes of happiness and then 10 minutes of happiness?
Yeah.
And then it'll just kind of become a habitual thing. So the positive habits that you do will eventually become habitual. So it's up to you to like figure that out.
Yeah, no, I like that. Well, Ash, man, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. I love going back and forth and the advice and expertise you've given. Like, it's been awesome.
Okay.
I appreciate you a lot, man. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
All right.